Live from New York, it's VGC, the video game podcast, with me, Jordan Midler, Chris Scullion, and Andy Robinson. This week, the absolute state of play. But first, how's it going, folks? Chris Scullion, thank you for joining me here. Happy Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's Day too. I've got my card all pre-written, like a good boy. I wrote my card in advance, unlike someone on. Just for the benefit of people just listening, let's just pretend that
my missus listens to this. Quiet.
Oh, does she? Okay, never mind.
No.
Happy Valentine's Day, everyone. We're all three of us are prepared in advance. Yeah, I'm good. I'll tell you later. Like I've had an ongoing scavenger hunt just now to keep the kid happy with some fucking stupid Splatoon scenario, but we'll get into that later maybe because it's just
Splatoon.
She's properly into Splatoon now. Like oddly, right. Like I wasn't even playing it. She was playing Mario Kart. I got her into Mario Kart. And she was really loving Mario Kart. And she said, "Who's that at the bottom?" I was like, "That's an Inkling boy and an Inkling girl."
That's Mario.
She won't play as anyone but them now. And she's like, are those Mario characters? I'm like, no, they're Splatoon. So I got loaded up Splatoon. She's not great at it, obviously, because the controls are stupidly complicated for the audience that's aimed at. But she's getting into it, and she's really loving it. So her and her pals at school have decided that each one of them has a fairy who speaks to them because they're 6, and that's what they've decided. That's what happens. So her fairy's called Yellow, and she told me one night, "Oh, Daddy, I've written a note to Yellow. I put it under my bed. Hopefully, she'll see it." So arsehole here's got to go in the middle of the night and dig this note out to see what it says. It's, "Dear Yellow, can you please get me a Splatoon costume?" I'm like, how the fuck am I supposed to, what?
Those readily available.
I know, so I'll just go to Asda and get you one.
So do you know what? It'd probably be easier than you think. I know this is not what you want to hear, but like the Nintendo store, because again, no one goes to the Splatoon section in the Nintendo store.
The Nintendo store in Japan, like I was like, I wish you told me this.
You can get the guns. You'll get like water pistols, and you'll get like t-shirts, and that's it, isn't it? I mean, I don't know how you do the head.
Well, this is the thing. I've masterfully actually managed it. So the last piece is turning up today. Hopefully, I've got an Etsy made
squid
because she specifically wanted the orange. And I've just bought a pack of calamari. I bought her like an Etsy hood thing, which is the ears, the ears, whatever it is, the tentacles.
Oh yeah. The ears. Yeah.
Someone on Redbubble was doing the T-shirt, the white T-shirt with the fake writing on it. So I got that. All highly bootleg. The shorts are just normal black kind of psycho shorts as I've got her. Brantano was doing it looks like the exact shoes, the pink shoes with the light blue shoelaces, exact. So I've got those. And someone was selling the kind of out of print or out of no longer stocked the American Splatoon gun, which comes with an actual ink, which that's going to mysteriously disappear. But it's the same gun, so she's going to look fucking identical to like the amiibo figure that she carries about all the time. So I think I've done quite well. Like,
you must be pleased with that.
In my role as Yellow, the fucking fairy. I've made it quite clear that I'm sure fairies can only deliver one thing a year. So don't fucking start going, right, thanks very much. Crash Bandicoot next.
This was my Jordan Midler, VGC over here.
Hello.
Since when have we introduced this concept of just creating a character that gives you a present? Like,
there's all sorts of lawless shit going on.
They've all just decided it in school, and that's
no
the case.
fairies in my house, mate.
And the thing is, apparently one of the boys in our class is saying, "Oh, the fairies don't exist. It's just your parents," and she's like, "Bullshit," or words to that effect. and it's so fucking Louise did the first note when she did the note saying to Yellow, "Give me Splatoon shit." Louise wrote the first note to her saying, "Yeah, I'll get you. I'll leave it with me. I'll see what I can do." She took the note in the morning and burst into tears. Like, "That's Mummy's writing. It's Mummy." And I'm like, "Please play the fucking game. Like, come on." So I had to then do a note the next night in fake writing saying, "Sorry, I don't write many notes, so I tried to copy your Mummy's writing. I hope that." I'm like, Jesus Christ. I've got enough on my plate.
Do you think that's the moment where she went, I'm not sure about this?
She bought it, to be fair. She bought it and then wrote another note saying, "Oh, that's fun. Tomorrow night, can you write it in my handwriting?" So now I'm up in the middle of the night digging at her old writing, fucking pretending to write as her. I'm like, mate, I've just.
You are digging yourself into a hole, mate.
I've just reviewed. I've just
she looks at the receipt.
40 hours playing a
That's
Avowed.
Annie's credit card.
I spent 40 hours playing Avowed, and then I'm shattered, and I sit on the couch, and then I'm fucking forging my 6-year-old's handwriting for the benefit of buying her shit. What's going on? So yeah, that's how I'm doing to answer your question.
Thanks, Chris. Andy, how are the fairies in your house?
No fairies in my house, mate. Just only the enforcer fairies. Yeah. The fairies of punishment that turn up if you misbehave.
The fairy bailiffs. The bailiffs.
Yeah. And their notes come in whatever bloody handwriting they want.
The notes come in official legal letterheads.
West Ham stationery. Do anything in Andy's house, you just hear "Oi!" and the windows start shaking. Oh, well. I was saying it in the legendary pre-show. It doesn't get recorded, although this one might have been because we were recording for about 4 hours before we started this. I'm exceptionally tired. I spent the start of the week in Los Angeles, California, as Stone Cold would say, and it really knackered me, which is annoying because I was waking up at UK times in LA, and then as soon as I got home, it's like, there you go, you're acclimatized to LA time, or you're in Paisley, get it right round you. But yeah, we'll talk about why I was in LA later in the show. But if you want more videos, podcasts, and extra content from VGC, patreon.com/Video Games Chronicle. You may have seen on Twitter or B-Sky or MySpace or Bebo that we are very soon going to be introducing ad-free browsing and Patreon-only comments on VGC.com. Chris Scullion, are you excited by this? As someone who spends their life firefighting the comments, are you excited by this?
I couldn't be happier to finally flick the switch and just know that the comments are in safe hands.
Well, I don't know about that. Ryan Cobain will be allowed to comment.
No, what we've established is that you can write whatever you want as long as you're paying us.
Yeah. Exactly. That's how free speech works, baby.
Any kind of diatribe, any kind of protected group you want can be slandered as long as you pay up. No. Luckily, this will be a self-imposed filter because they know that these comments are now like a kind of nice privilege for the people who are supporting us, and it'll be nice. Hopefully, it'll make the comments a bit nicer because it's just maniacs just now, as is the case for people commenting anywhere on the internet. So.
Whereas we want the maniacs from our Discord, which mainly just take the piss out of the three of us, which I'm all for, to be honest.
I've realised, I've said this in the Discord this week, I can never put up a photo of something with a face on it because ultimately my face will end up on it. I noticed. So that seems to be the running joke now, is putting my head on things.
Oh, Chris, as long as that picture of you with the Wii U exists, I'll be a happy man. It really brightens my day every time I see it. Energy drink review, Chris, anything this week?
No, it's been a week. I'm on the faithful Iron Brew Extra. It's still unbeatable in my eyes.
Plug. I recorded a vlog from the LA trip that includes multiple energy drink reviews. One of them that didn't make the video cut because I was walking here was Jolly Rancher Watermelon, which it's a C4 product. It tasted exactly like a Jolly Rancher, but like melted and caffeinated. So if that's kind of what you're into and your heart didn't start constricting at the sound of that, then maybe seek it out at your local establishment. Let's get into some news. As exclusively broken on this podcast last week, the worst kept state of play in history was on Wednesday. A couple of highlights. Sora, the new game from Housemarque, made me very excited because I absolutely love Returnal, starring Raul Coley. It's Housemarque because some bullet hell shooting came out a gun. Very little shown about this, but that's next year. Chris, it's a pretty cool one to end with, even though Returnal didn't sell especially well, and Housemarque's kind of one of those devs that are for the real heads. It got me pumped.
I really need to go back and play that. That's like my sort of game. It really is. And I played it for about 3 hours.
It's really good.
I know I'd enjoy it as well.
But yeah, you're right. It was a good end. Like you say, not everyone, a lot of people, basically the people who'd see the Housemarque logo and go, oh, for them it would be an underwhelming ending. But I think for everyone else who knows Housemarque and who knows Returnal, that's pretty much as big as an announcement at the end as you can get, because Returnal was fantastic, and this looks like The developer was saying after they're basically bringing together everything from the previous stuff, which basically means it's Returnal, but with like a different guy.
Returnal, as they're calling it.
So they should.
Very little's known about it, apart from this time it's Gregory Loudon that is directing it, who was kind of second in command on Returnal, because Big Harry left Housemarque. They also said that it's going to be less punishing than Returnal, in the sense that it's going to be more persistent worldy. You can keep your upgrades, that kind of thing. There was very minimal kind of upgrade retention in Returnal. It was much more about just doing kind of randomized runs, but that's exciting. It's kind of setting up a cool 2026. I'd like to officially apologize. Days Gone Remastered, everyone's favorite biker game, is back for the second time, because they already updated it when they put it on PC.
Joe, I was going to say I might try it this time, but I'm not going to, because
Mate, it's mince. Why would you try it? You've got so many games you've not played.
But this is the thing, it's like, if I wanted to try it, review code aside, I wouldn't be able to, because I got it as part of the PS Plus collection when I got my PS5, and that's not eligible for the $10 upgrade, apparently. So they can chase themselves. I think I'm going to spend 40, 50 quid on a PS5 version when I've got a PS4 version sitting there. Doing nothing.
It's not worth 40, 50 pence. Andy, did you play Days Gone?
Did I? Fuck.
I take it as a maybe.
Days Gone is the number one for me game with the difference between how it was received critically and how it was received by Joe Blogs, because every time it comes up on TikTok, people are like, "Oh yeah, that game was sick, man. It was like Sons of Anarchy, the game, man." And I'm like, "Absolutely not. That game was pish and garbage." And it got battered in reviews, I think correctly, and the Gen pub seemed to love it. To be fair, I'm on the opposite end of the spectrum, where I think Ghost of Tsushima got unfairly maligned in reviews, when I think that's a much better game than it reviewed. But
the game's gone more like, is it but is it just like a slow burner? I've not played it, but from what I gather, it's takes
a slow churner.
It takes like 15-20 hours before anything actually happens, from what I gather. But that shouldn't be, like I say, that seems to be the argument a lot of people put up, is, oh, you need to eventually, after a while, it kicks in. I'm like, well, it shouldn't just, why can't it just kick in? Like, I appreciate like pacing, but it sounds like the pacing is all over the place.
The pacing is all over the place. There are parts of Days Gone that are totally fine. I'm being a bit hyperbolic. Like, there's probably a good like 15-hour game in what is essentially a 50-hour game in Days Gone. Like, it's far, far, far too long. Like, it's a piss take how long that game is. Yeah. The zombie horde tech is cool the first couple of times you've seen it. Deacon St. John, the main character, is the
son of Ian St. John.
Yeah,
from St.
Put it this way: he had more character to him when he was a bloody astrobot than when he was an actual human. So Sam Witwer's a good actor. It's just he was hamstrung there. But yes, Days Gone Remastered. Sorry about it. I'll take all the apologies on Twitter now. Thanks. Not on the state of play. They announced new Astrobot levels, which is very exciting. The first one of them is out now, as is the PS5 Pro patch. Why the hell did they not show this on the state of play? I don't get that at all.
I think you'll find that the internet is finite, and they were assigned 40 minutes of internet space, and they couldn't use it up, so they decided to use that internet space to instead show the Metal Gear trailer that we've all saw last week.
They couldn't say, here, see this game that won the Game of the Year at the Game Awards and the Game of the Year at DICE and the Game of the Year.
The best game we've put out in 5 years.
Yeah.
We're going to save it till tomorrow and just quietly announce it instead.
Yeah. Very, very odd. But there are challenge levels, which is an exciting change. The last one's called like Ultra Hardcore or something like that, because they released the list. 5 new cameos.
I'm still waiting for them to release the hard levels, mate. I did the one yesterday, like just first go.
Oh, the last one?
I mean, like, they do know that these hard levels are releasing in the context of the game that has those already super hard levels in them.
Yeah. That new one isn't hard, really.
It's not hard, no, at all.
The hope is that towards the end they have one of those, like the last hard level that's in the base game.
The main game, yeah.
nice little cameo this week. I enjoyed that. Only 4 to go, so considering there's well, I say only 4 to go. They've made about 3 posts on the PlayStation blog so far, being like, "Cheers, guys, that's it. We'll see you later on now." Yeah. Although I do worry that this is the actual last one.
I don't think it, but it's again, no one talks about this. When I went there, they said there's 5 speedrun levels and 10 challenge levels, right?
Yeah.
So they released the 5 speedrun levels. I guess you could call these challenge levels, but they're basically speedrun levels, aren't they?
Yeah.
I was trying to work out last night because they've not advertised them as speedrun levels, I don't think, but they are, right?
So they unlock speedrun levels after you complete them once as a challenge.
Right. Okay. So maybe they could call them challenge levels.
So essentially,
in which case there's probably 5 more.
Yeah, so what we're saying is after these 5, when they go, "That's it, guys, time for everyone," you just basically stay for the encore, like when a comedian goes off.
We're going to be like the guys waiting for the post-credit scene.
Exactly. So,
my conspiracy theory is still that the last thing they do for Astrobot is do a series of levels with Square Enix proper characters, not Gex. I think that would be a pretty... Would you say that Cloud Strife as a character is on the PlayStation Mount Rushmore? Do you think he makes it up there?
Yes, I believe so.
Do you think he's big enough to be the last cameo that they would do? Because I think that would be quite a cool ending.
Yeah, I agree. Especially because Final Fantasy VII is one of the only big exclusives they've got left, third party wise, for now.
Yeah.
In terms of big third party games, most of them are multi-format now. Final Fantasy Final Fantasy VII at least seems to be the last. The remake isn't on anything else just now, and there aren't many other third party PS5 games that aren't also on Xbox. This is where you come up with a big massive list of 40 of them. But
I'm racking my brain.
In terms of really big third party exclusives on PS5, Final Fantasy VII remake is the big one. So yeah, ending with Cloud would make sense because that's kind of the only surprise cameo that isn't a PlayStation first party property. That would make sense in the context as a third party exclusive.
Yeah, honestly, you get away with doing the last 2 being Cloud and Sephiroth, and I think people would be quite happy with that. There was a have you completed the Christmas level, Chris?
Mm-hmm.
Have you done the Christmas level, Andy?
Of course I have.
Okay, good. Spoilers for anyone who's not done the Christmas level. I kind of thought that might be the end because they ended with Spider-Man and Miles Morales, and those were the 2 major first-party characters that they had.
Yeah, it did have a whiff of that, didn't it?
Yeah. Especially because it was when the game came out and didn't have either of them, a lot of people were like, "Oh, maybe Marvel said no," whereas in fact they were holding them. And it was a good misdirect because that level was full of characters for absolute Shanner games like Tomba et al.
Listen, I'll not hear a bad word said against Tomba! ! What a game! What a piece of digital entertainment!
So that was a cool way to finish it off. I'm not going to say who the cameo is this week because the level's been out for 5 minutes, but it's not from a new franchise. It's another representation of a franchise that's already in it. So, yeah, they've got...
at this rate, the way Xbox is going, it's going to be Master Chief and bloody...
It's going to be fucking Phil Spencer.
Yeah, Banjo-Kazooie will be the cameos behind it. Phil Spencer.
Imagine they got... That's how they announced Halo's coming to PS5, a Master Chief cameo in Astrobot.
that would be the very last one. The very last cameo on the very last level will be Jay Allard. And he'll come out with an Xbox, and that'll be
going to be JR from Dallas. Speaking of PlayStation, Xbox, and the state of play, Metal Gear 3 trailer that you might have seen from the PlayStation Network, reconfirmed an August release date. I can't wait for that. That was really good when I played it, so I look forward to playing that. Snake vs. Monkey is back on PC and PlayStation. Chris Scullion, Xbox Defender to the hilt. You will be fighting against Bomberman. How do you feel about it?
I'll be fighting against No Prick, mate. I'll not be playing it. But if I was into Metal Gear, I'd be fine with that. I think Bomberman's a better character than an ape from Ape Escape.
And the Pippo Monkey? Oh, you shut your mouth.
Bomberman is a more storied history. Bomberman's had better games.
Bomberman is a better character.
Bomberman's had better games.
I'm an Ape Escape fan.
No,
Yeah.
disagree.
Bomberman has been cruelly left to history.
Bomberman was the
last
mascot of Hudson Soft for the longest time ever. Ape Escape was never the
God rest
mascot.
it.
Ape Escape was barely the mascot of fucking Sony Japan.
As
that
we've established, it's that wee cat thing that's everywhere. Yeah, this isn't a big deal. I just think it's hilariously petty. I think it's really funny in the context as well of people like, well, all these Xbox games are coming to PlayStation. Maybe PlayStation sends a game over Xbox's way.
No
Sony's like, you're not even looking at my monkey. You're not even getting a touch of my monkey.
We need to sit down and think long and hard about a mascot that represents your console. Bomberman.
Konami's like, who have we got? Get going on.
Who have we got that carries around huge bombs?
To be fair, the Xbox is no stranger to a bomb or two.
Yeah, that was the joke. I was trying really hard.
Yeah, I say
Look at him wearing his ironic Xbox Live T-shirt. Like,
it's not ironic, mate. See when this was Xbox. Xbox was the best console going. They lost to this. They lost.
Do you know? In my loft, part of the future office purge, I've got a sealed Xbox Live.
I remember that line about.
Yeah. That's now mine, mate.
Well, that's all right. I didn't want it. Don't worry.
It's probably worth at least 15 quid.
And with
that awful headset.
Chris has signed up to Xbox Live Gold until 2400. He's signed up until 80 generations for now.
I paid well in advance.
Do you know, I couldn't get my original game, so I imported. So it came out the year before in the US, the year before Europe. Mm-hmm. I imported. I had a US console because in those days you didn't buy bloody PAL consoles. I sound like
Brexit means Brexit, mate.
Simpson at this point. So I imported it, Xbox Live the year before. So I had my gamer tag like a year before the European gates open. So I got this gamer tag, and I would have been, I don't know how old I was in 2001, but I would have been under 18, like 15, something like that. And so I had to use my dad's credit card to sign up for Xbox Live. So when Xbox 360 came out and you had to re-log in, I couldn't remember the password or something, and you needed the credit card details to like do to retrieve your password, and my dad had chucked the credit card out. So it's so annoying, right? My gamer tag, you can still look at it and still look at the progress and all the achievements and everything from like pre 360 days. But I went for dinner years later at some Xbox thing, and I happened to be at a dinner, and I had said this exact story, and they're like, "Oh, the engineers who run Xbox Live are sat over there." Oh, okay. And we asked them, "And is there anything you can do for this guy?" No. It's just no.
You're like that boy that lost the hard drive full of Bitcoin, and he's trying to buy the landfill that it's in.
Funny.
See, to be fair, I also think he's a fanny, but that would keep you up at night for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
That would be absolutely disastrous. I had the same thing happen. Well, not the same thing with the credit card.
I lost millions of dollars in a landfill.
I lost my original gamer tag when I finally had enough of my Xbox's breaking, and I chucked the 360 for a couple of years. And then when I came back I made my most recent gamer tag is just from Xbox One. Well, not launch when Titanfall came out, so it's got none of my 360 history. All those hours I put in playing the worst crappy games ever. Avatar et al.
Mine's is still there, ticking away.
Oh, if you lost your achievements, we'd have to do a wellness check on your house. I'd be over there in about 2 minutes flat. Yeah.
Nah, I'm waiting until. Listen, see if Switch 2 has achievements. I'm going cold turkey on Xbox
on the pitch.
And starting again. I'm going straight on the pitch. I'm going all out on Switch 2 achievements. Yeah. It won't happen, but like,
it wouldn't happen.
A man can dream.
Imagine it did. Stars.
The greatest.
You get stars, and then when you get all the achievements, you get a superstar for that game. Like it's so obvious.
Merge it with what they did with the Street Pass stuff, where the more Street Passes you get tokens, and the tokens could be swapped for daft wee hats for your me. Give us achievements that we can then trade for pointless customization things for your console, and people play your games for longer because they'll want to not only get the achievements but also get the rewards that come with it. Like when 360 used to give you, if you played Explosion Man, you would unlock a certain achievement, you would get a Explosion Man t-shirt for your wee guy. And for 2 minutes you're like, that's pretty cool, I got a free hang. And then realised that he didn't want to wear a Explosion Man t-shirt.
Easily pleased. The week before this event, this direct in April, we should do a special podcast, like a wish list kind of for Switch 2 actual guts and stuff.
We'll just end up depressed because none of the stuff we actually dream of will end up on it. It'll just be the Switch with a mouse and a rotatable screen.
We need to dream. Before we wrap up this state of play, marks out of 5, Chris. I thought it was a solid 3 out of 5. Obviously the Housemarque one's a big hitter for me, and if that Metal Gear trailer hadn't leaked, that would have been a big one. There was a few bits and pieces I expected to be here that weren't. I'm surprised that the Death Stranding release date trailer wasn't here, because a lot more people are going to watch this than they will Kojima's like circle jerk at South by Southwest.
Yeah. No, you're right. I would agree with 3. It was solid enough. There was some interesting kind of new stuff there, but that wasn't necessarily Sony stuff. Obviously ending with, I need to look the name up again, Saros. I can't even remember the name of it. Saros, ending with that was like interesting. But yeah, it's still, I'm still like, what else have you got? Like
I thought it was really good.
It was good, but there's still this big empty space ahead of us.
I think people criticizing it should go back and watch some of the previous state of plays. Like I think they forget like how many absolute stinkers they put out. There were like 5 games, 4 of which were adverts. There's been one of which was Concord.
There's been plenty of ones. There's been plenty of 1s and 2s in the past. As a 3, I was happy enough with it.
What scale we judging it by though?
1 to 5.
I mean, if it's not an edge 7, is it? It's like a Games Master 7.
No, I'm judging it on there were other than I'm looking up again Saros. the instantly memorable title of Saros.
It kept my attention, which is more than other state of plays have done.
When I rewatched it kept my I saw less because they announced so much.
But there's a couple of metrics, right? I mean, it kept my attention, and also we were still covering the news like an hour later.
Yeah, it was
the previous state of plays, like I mean, again, inside baseball, but previous state of plays, I'd say the majority of them, one guy can comfortably cover the news in them. Whereas we had 3 of us still working an hour later. I think it was one of their stronger ones.
I agree.
I think if it had like one tentpole first party game, people would be going, that was great.
But that's what I'm saying. That's what's keeping it from being like a 4 for
That's what it was missing.
So because like most of the stuff we were covering was games we already knew about, like the Metal Gear trailer, Borderlands release date, Onimusha trailer, Liza P expansion, like stuff like that was like, it was all fine. It was all good. Days Gone Remastered was like one of their big kind of new announcements. I mean, so, but there was stuff like Metal Eden and that new stuff for Mind's Eye, which I thought was quite interesting looking. So there was kind of interesting extra stuff. That Supermassive game, which I didn't really pay attention to while we were covering because I was writing something, but like that looks quite good.
The one that's got your women for the Marvel stuff in it.
The kind of space one. So there was lots of kind of interesting stuff there, but I think what keeps it from a 4 is like a bombshell. Like Housemarque was cool, but like we didn't see enough of it yet to make me massive.
It wasn't the bombshell that Yote was the last state of play, because that's like a new Ghost of Tsushima is a much bigger deal.
And for me, a 5 needs to be like a Shenmue 4, like a one of those, like but you know what I mean, like the equivalent of what Shenmue 3 was at the time. This will never happen. Oh, it's happened situation, like a Half-Life
hip hop gamer spinning his title belt.
It needs to be, the 5 needs to be like blown away, one of the all-time best. 4 needs to be a few really big.
I think probably the fans need to set their expectations that State of Play is not where Sony announces its biggest games. It still announces its biggest games at Jeff shows. These are mainly for third-party stuff and smaller titles.
Yeah. So I think a 3 is reasonable.
The apparent gulf of PlayStation first-party games has not slowed down the PlayStation 5 one bit, because the PlayStation 5 has just had its best holiday period ever. It's cleared 75 million units shipped. Launch aligned, the PlayStation 5 is now just 1.5 million units behind PS4 during the same period of its life cycle. Sony has shipped 15.7 million PlayStation 5 consoles during the first 3 quarters of the current year, with a target of 18 million by the end of March. I put this in the chat when it happened, Andy. 75 million PS5s already seems absolutely mental. This thing's been out for 5 minutes.
It's only because of the pandemic. The pandemic skews it, right?
Well, yeah.
I mean, as you can see, I launch aligned it, and it's pretty much neck and neck with PS4. It's probably doing better in context if you consider that by this point in the life cycle, I'm pretty sure the Slim and Pro was out. I mean, you could probably get a PS4 for like $200 at this point of the life cycle. I think we're looking at maybe 2017-ish, 4 years after launch. So yeah. It would have been 2017. So I'm pretty sure Slim was out by then. A PS4 still costs like $400+. A PS5, sorry, still costs $400+. You add into that the fact that you couldn't buy one, for the first 2 years.
Yeah.
The fact they're neck and neck actually is more in PS5's favor. Actually, if you launch and line them with Nintendo Switch, even, I think at this point in the cycle, Nintendo Switch was on 84 million. So still, a good 9 mil ahead. However, that goes into 2021. So they've had that full year of mental, pandemic boost that Nintendo had. I mean, they were selling, they were selling 25 million consoles in 1 year, right? That's better than I'm pretty sure any console has had before. Certainly PS5. Yeah. Someone's going to look that up now and say I'm wrong, but that's up there with the best that you're going to have. So PS5 is doing really, really well. Yeah. And I think these numbers kind of highlight again that, people are like, where's the games? Where's the games? Where's the games? They're still, PlayStation is clearly a platform business. All of their revenue predominantly comes from, kind of third-party game microtransaction subscriptions, that sort of thing, right? People plugging away on FIFA and COD and Fortnite. That is their business, which is probably why, or almost certainly why, when we had the co-CEO situation recently, it was Herman Hulst who came second, the studio boss. Yeah. And it was the platform boss who ultimately was decided as a safe pair of hands because that's what they're making their money from.
Yeah. I think it's obviously. I said this a couple of podcasts ago when we were talking about this. I think people expected another PS4 run of first party games, and that is just impossible with current budgets. And that was kind of like a not even once in a generation, like once in a multi-generation run. There hasn't been enough PlayStation first party games, but I don't think it's been the absolute dearth that some people suggest it has been. I think this year, having Death Stranding 2 and having Ghost of Yotei, I think if you had one more, people would start feeling kind of like okay about it. Like that would be 3 big ones, but there does seem to be just a little bit lag behind.
I mean, I think there's a couple of factors for that, right? I mean, first of all, you've had the situation where Jim Ryan, God rest him, obviously mandated these live service games, which the majority of which seem to have been cancelled. Yeah, there was supposed to be something like 12 live service games out by next year. That's not happening now. So they've had some recalibration there. I think also you have to imagine with the success of Astro Bot, and it's picking up awards left, right, and center. I mean, even today, this morning, it's picked up, Game of the Year at the DICE Awards, which is for game developers, very, very credible, industry awards, that one. Whereas obviously Game Awards comes from the press. That's a 65-person team that made that game within Sony and has picked up all the awards. While it's Concord, God knows how much money, that costs to make. Probably been, surveyed within an inch of its life about what type of game is popular, blah, blah, and that's lasted 2 weeks. You have to imagine that they must be looking at that and thinking, let's make some more smaller games. Because really, that's what Nintendo does. If you look at it, like imagine if Nintendo only did the big hitters.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so what came out last year? I mean, okay, we're at unprecedented stage of the life cycle for Nintendo, so it's not really a fair comparison. But some years they'll have like what? They'll have Pikmin 4, and then Zelda, and maybe one other. Like in a really good year for Nintendo, they might have 2 or 3 of the big games, which is kind of what Sony's doing. And then they pad it out with smaller stuff, with remasters, with remakes. With smaller games,
because stuff like Princess Peach Showtime and that Endless Ocean one and Another Code kind of remakes and these little Paper Mario, the Nintendo World Championships and MEO Smiling Man. None of those are AAA games, but they're keeping a library going with kind of interesting.
They serve a purpose, right? Yeah. And that's what needs to happen in the AAA space now. Is that people need to spend on what this game is going to earn. You don't see. I'm trying to think of a good comparison. Maybe like Kirby. Kirby's probably not a good comparison. I can't think of one to my head, but there was a game that I played recently where it was pointed out to me that basically like they set the budget. Oh, Capcom. That was it. It's Capcom. Look at Onimusha, right? Mm-hmm. This Onimusha game that they've announced. You'd be tempted to thinking like if another publisher was bringing back Onimusha, it'd be £100 million game, right? Maybe it is. Maybe I'm not being fair. Big franchise, blah blah. But if you're Capcom, you look at that and you go, well, how much is this actually going to sell? This dormant IP. Don't spend $100 million on it. Maybe spend significantly less on it. Do a smaller scope game, and that game doesn't look like Devil May Cry 4, right? Yeah. It certainly doesn't look like Monster Hunter, a game that they know is going to sell 20 million units, so they spend accordingly. It looks quite rough, actually, but that's all it needs to be. Mm-hmm. It's probably going to be a really good game. They've not, spent money back on it that's going to make it unsustainable, and then maybe we'll get more Onimusha games.
Yeah, live within your means. Instead of putting all your chickens in one basket and other cliches.
Any more cliches, Chris, before the break?
Sick as a dog.
Yeah.
Well, sick as a parrot, I suppose. Like, I'm not going to get into it whether dogs or parrots are the sickest of creatures.
Yeah.
But yeah, we also obviously need to remember that with the best will in the world, PlayStation 5 is hardly up against tough competition this time, just as PS4 was hardly up against tough competition last time. But with the added caveat this time that what little competition they've had is now coming over to PS5 as well.
Just as it's become really, really, really good.
But I know we're very much in the WCW end days situation where Xbox has gone. It's a really interesting thing because all three of the big three are now going in very different directions. Nintendo's doing its own thing like it's always done. PlayStation, like Andy says, is kind of platform is the focus. Xbox is basically doing the Sega model without giving up the hardware. Xbox I think, I mean, they've said, we'll get another. I think they're just happy to keep making Xboxes safe in the knowledge that people can do the console race and see who's selling the most, but they don't actually give a shit. If they sell X number of million of the next Xbox, they'll be happy enough with that because their money is from subscriptions and stuff like that. They'll argue this is the best way to play the games, but hey, if you want to play it on a PC, if you want to play it on PS6, go wild. We don't give a shit.
If you want to give us 70 boys to play Indiana Jones, we'll happily take it from you.
Because we're at a point now, I wouldn't imagine that they're going to put a hell. Obviously, new systems have a lot of R&D time, but I would imagine the next Xbox isn't going to have an immense R&D budget put on it because it's basically just going to be a more powerful box with maybe a slightly different controller, and that's it. It's not doing what Nintendo does. It's not reinventing the wheel every time. How similar has the Xbox controller looked since the original Xbox? Maybe not the Duke, but when they redesigned that, the controller's been very similar the entire time. There's not a lot of innovation going on there year by year. They can make a new Xbox for relatively little R&D costs compared to its competitors. They'll churn out a new console. They don't give a shit. If it sells 40 million, brilliant.
They're not setting it up. They're not setting up going, okay, 2 weeks before or after PS6, here's our thing, and we're going again. Like, it's a totally different game. Right, we must take a break. We'll be back with Rocksteady, Avowed, and Discord questions after this. And we are back. If you want more podcasts, videos, and extra content from VGC, including ad-free browsing coming soon, and Patreon-only comments coming soon, patreon.com/video games chronicle. Last story this week before we chat about, oh Jesus Christ, Warner Brothers. According to Bloomberg's Jason Schreier, friend of the show, Wonder Woman, which you might remember was announced at the Game Awards, is years away and has been rebooted. Perhaps not entirely surprising, Andy, considering all we've seen of this is about 30 seconds of a woman, presumably Wonder Woman's face, and hee-haw else. What on earth is going on in the House of Commons, Andy Robinson?
I don't know.
No,
I mean that's clearly another trailer for hiring. But then again, this team hasn't put any. Their track record is so good, right?
Yeah.
Monolith, the Shadow of Middle-earth games. Everyone loves the Nemesis system, the patented Nemesis system, which get a completely different subject. That's really frustrating that they're allowed to do that. That's such a great idea. So many great ideas. Games are built on other teams' great ideas, right? Their game, the game that famously looked like a complete copy paste of Assassin's Creed, right, down to like the same animations and stuff. Shame as Ubisoft couldn't patent them animations, right? I'm being harsh, but it's a shame. It's a shame we haven't been able to see that system iterated on more because they have it locked up. Warner Brothers just seems like a bit of a basket case at the moment, right? I mean, I think this same story says that Rocksteady's back working on Batman, which is unsurprising. I mean, it's either that or shut them from the outside, right? From our expectations, not what I would do. They've just got rid of their CEO, who's been there for a good 10 years. It seems like they have the eye of Sauron on them, is the impression that I get. After Hogwarts being a massive success, after the initial big success of Multiverses, it seems like they've had the attention of the wider Warner Brothers company. Is Comcast, isn't it? And they're kind of saying to them, more. These people obviously don't quite understand that that's not how it works. Do
another Hogwarts.
10 years. Yeah. You're not seeing another Hogwarts, maybe not even this gen. It might be late gen, maybe at the earliest next year or year after if it's very iterative. So it's not that simple. This is a course correction that is going to take a while.
Yeah.
It's a real shame to see Multiverses not kind of resonate a second time around as well.
God rest it.
Yeah, I don't know. And it makes you wonder, as if you're some of those key people who worked on those Shadow of Mordor games. I imagine a bunch of them have gone. I've not looked into it, but this is it was always a consideration in AAA game dev before now, but it definitely is now, right?
Yeah.
How long ago was this game announced?
It was at the Game Awards 21, I believe.
Christ.
Yeah.
So imagine you've been on this game for 4 years and it's like, yeah, we're starting again now. You have to literally, this is how you think if you're a developer, is how many games have I got left in me?
Yeah.
So I'm going to work on this until my mid-40s, my 50s.
It's taking pride in your work. Taking pride in your work as well. I mean, this is obviously something arguably to a lesser degree that we've put up with in the past, our work disappearing. That's 4 years of work that nobody will ever see. They can't say here's what I've worked on for the past 4 years, because they'd be slapped down with all sorts of kind of bullshit if they tried to even put it on their own kind of personal portfolios and stuff like that, because they know that that'll all leak. Oh, look, here's what the Wonder Woman game would have looked like. So there's so much stuff they've done.
Oh yeah, I mean that's game dev. That's game dev, really. I just think that's probably the more. Probably the bigger thing is how it's like it's not based on your choices.
Yeah.
Especially if you're working in these bigger teams, you're just following in someone else's direction.
Mm-hmm.
You might not agree with the type of game they're making. You're just doing your best.
Yeah.
So that's the real frustration, I imagine.
I'd love a new Batman from Rocksteady to be brilliant. I still think they could probably do it. I know Jamie and Sefton are away now, but the Wonder Woman game, just purely conceptually, that team working on a Wonder Woman game, you lasso your enemies to in the same way that in the Lord of the Rings games, you put your hand on their head to like convert them and get information. It's a perfect fit, but I'll probably be about 55 before the time we actually see it.
Also, when we mentioned this numerous times, the way the old toxic gaming community
don't talk about Discord like that.
I mean, like, you're on a hide nothing. Like, if these days, annoyingly, with like choosing the female superhero, you're going to get so much shit just for the sake of just because you did.
They've
that,
made Wonder Woman woke.
They've made Wonder Woman. Remember when Wonder Woman wasn't a woman, and now they've made it. Now they've made it all woke and put a woman in it. Yeah, so it was always going to be an uphill battle for the wrong reasons. But
I mean, it highlights another thing as well, is that how long it takes to put these games out, these AAA monsters, based on trends.
Yeah,
the publishers have stopped working on licensed games now.
Mm.
I mean, I know this is a license they own, so it's a bit different for them. But like, I mean, EA have stopped doing Star Wars and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
I'm surprised they're still working on Iron Man, because they came out and said, like, look, this is not worth it for us. Ubisoft have just put out a Star Wars game which absolutely bombed on its ass.
Yeah. How do we think Jedi 3 is going to go, though? I think that will still do pretty well, because those first two were very good and seem to sell very well.
It'll do all right. I mean, I heard as well, even like there's I'll give you an example. I heard that there's a little bit of, I mean, frustration is probably not the right, well, frustration maybe is a soft enough word. I don't want this to become a thing. Like within Xbox, that they've put out this amazing Indiana Jones game, for a franchise that it's probably the best Indiana Jones thing for 20 years? You want to go further? 30 years?
Yeah.
I mean, how long are we going to go back to? Like maybe, probably, it's certainly with the films, like maybe like the LucasArts games were probably the last good thing, like genuinely great thing in that franchise. Microsoft have to pay them for that. It's like, yeah, so we've revived your IP, done an amazing job, and we're paying you for the privilege.
Yeah.
So you can understand how, to a lot of these publishers, they're at this level now, when the stakes are so high and the budget's so humongous, you're sort of like, well, no, what's the point? Yeah. I mean, they went into it in the first place thinking, well, the popularity of something like Marvel, kind of alleviates the risk somewhat of AAA, but in the current market, it doesn't. I mean, I think in Europe, Star Wars Outlaws barely cracked the top 50 last year.
That's mental. That's absolutely unreal.
That is a big, like, a warning flag to people who are thinking these games are a sure thing.
Yeah. The multiverses thing still annoys me. But one day I'd like to speak about that in depth.
It's kind of mad though, isn't it? Seeing it was a phenomenon, and then it's almost like you've been able to see like a sliding doors launch for a game, right? That it was a big hit, and then it was an absolute flop. I mean, I remember interviewing fighting game developers around the original launch, and they're all playing it, and they're talking about how they need to learn from it, because it's like at that point you're like. But you've got to think, but at that point, the biggest fighting game of all time is Smash Brothers, best-selling fighting game of all time. And at that point, the biggest played one was that game.
Yeah. It was a genuinely good game. They took the piss with it, and like they suffer from what a lot of kind of live service games suffer from, is that they can't keep the momentum going. Like when your roadmap hits a snag, it kind of makes a domino effect, and the players they lose interest, because when it first launched the first time around, it was like, here's a bunch of characters and we've just added LeBron James for a laugh, and everyone was like, oh, that's weird, that's nice and quirky. They went along with it, and the first season had a bunch of extra characters that they added throughout time. Here's Rick, here's Morty, here's this and that. Oh, brilliant. And then the second season it slowed down a bit, and it's like, here's Black Adam, because it's a tie-in with the Black Adam movie that no one cared about, and everyone's like, all right, here's someone else that no one cares about. And then that was when it died the first time. They put loads of microtransactions in, like 20 quid skins, 30 quid skins, and people just gave up. So much of a grind to level up all this stuff. when they came back, it was the repeat process. It says, we're back now, and on day one, here's Jason from Friday the 13th, and here's the Joker, and here's Agent Smith from The Matrix. And I was like, oh shit, they're serious. This is going to be really cool. Next season, here's Powerpuff Girls. Here's someone from Wonder Woman who isn't Wonder Woman that you don't give a shit about. Oh, okay. And now this season that's just started with her dying, there's 2 characters, and it's Lola Bunny and Aquaman. And you're like, well, I'm not going to grind for the tens of hours you want me to grind to unlock Lola Bunny and Aquaman. Like if you don't have a plan that's going to keep the Steam going, it's going to run out of steam, and that's what's happened. People don't give a shit. People need to care about investing the time in it, and they don't. So all I know is that I've ditched it, and I'm now back on my FIFA bullshit to get Maradona, who's released today.
Right. We are running out of time, but I want to get to some Discord questions. Chris, you've got 60 seconds. How's Avowed? Where can we hear more about it? Maybe on Patreon?
Avowed is very good. It is a solid game that doesn't do anything revolutionary, but I really enjoyed the combat. I enjoyed the dialogue between characters, which seems to have divided people online, going by other reviews. There's a lot of kind of RPG pulling names out their arse shit. Oh, do you remember the Battle of Thweek when Galaho was felled? No, I don't, but that doesn't matter. I really enjoyed it. A solid lengthy RPG. You can find more on my review of VGC. I've done a 40-minute first play video, which I recorded when I first got review code, which you can currently see on our YouTube channel. If you're on Patreon, you get a 60-minute version where I play a wee bit longer. It's quite fun though. Like I stab a lizard in it, and you can't say that about many games. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. It's another good kind of Xbox game. They need a run of these. So next is, I think, South of Midnight is next. April.
And then Doom.
Doom. So they're going to hope that those kind of that they need this run going. For their sake and PlayStation's sake.
Yeah. Jordan, how's Split Fiction? I was in LA playing Split Fiction and speaking to Joseph Fares. It's another one of those co-op games. This one seems much better than It Takes Two. It's basically you're playing as 2 writers who have they get shoved into a big gloopy machine that siphons their ideas for a corporation to make content out of, and those stories that they came up with become the levels that you play. Preview on the site, little bit of gameplay on the YouTube channel. That's out next month. Me and Chris Scullion are going to be playing it, and we're going to record it and put it on patreon.com/Video Games Chronicle. So please do look forward to that. Let's get into Discord questions just on what you said there, Chris. Phil Spencer asks, 2 good games in a row from Xbox. How frustrating is it that they've pissed away the console war, even though what they're doing is better for their bottom line? Also just read Avowed isn't getting a proper physical Xbox release. What an effing shambles. Hopefully it comes to PS5 and gets one. Kind of what we've been joking about for the last little while, that just as they get these absolute banger games, they're like, okay, PS5 time, here we go.
Yeah. But it's like we said before, like they've clearly changed their focus now. It's odd that you think if they kind of run a banger games right at the start of the Series X's like kind of release, then maybe we could be looking at a totally different situation. Maybe not. Maybe
they had no games. They had zero games.
But maybe the thing Andy's always said every time in the game that's always been said is that people weren't willing to give up the PS4 libraries and move to Series X. They could have released 5 or 6 great games in a row, and people might not have still made the jump. We still could be in this situation. They've realised that, and like we were saying 20 minutes ago, their focus now is on the software side of things rather than the hardware side of things. And as long as they keep releasing bangers, they're probably not going to sit there and go, shit, man, imagine we did this earlier and we would have sold more Xboxes. As long as they sell more games, they don't care. As long as they make them a profit on each game they release, they're going to be happy enough. In
the last quarter, Xbox hardware sales dropped by, I think, 30%. In the same quarter, PlayStation just sold 9.5 million consoles.
Yeah.
You know, to put that in perspective, that's, obviously Xbox doesn't release console numbers, so we have to go on whatever third parties give us. So Take-Two, for example, recently said there's like 100 million-ish consoles. So they've sold like a third of all Xbox Series consoles in 3 months. It's like the writing has been on the wall for a while. I mean, if you look at the projections, it was really last year when the pandemic years, the first couple of years, like 2020, 2021, 2022, even to some certain extent, like while it was still difficult to get these consoles, anything they could make sold.
Yeah.
And then PlayStation pulled away last year after that point, and that's when you've already said it. This is it frustrating? I bet then. The thing is, they can't be frustrated. Oh, we got these great games, and it's not, because again, they lost the war was lost.
Yeah,
by Don Matrick, really. They need to play play a different game, which they are. I mean, they were the number one publisher in the world last month in revenue. Thanks obviously, hugely to Call of Duty. This is just what it is, and again, to his point on no physical version for Xbox for Avowed, people don't buy physical games on Xbox. It's not a broad brush scenario. It's different for every platform and even every genre. People still buy like more. There's more physical. It's a higher physical split on Nintendo, for example, much higher.
Yeah,
and there's a much lower physical split on Xbox, even compared to PlayStation, because they've been conditioned to buy digital games.
It feels to me like the sort of game that will eventually get a limited run or some sort of thing like after the fact, where once it's established a fan base of people who like the characters and the lore and all that shit, that's when they release the big poster of the living lands and the
big cloth map,
the CD soundtrack, because we all listen to CDs still, and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's like, I don't know how many limited run don't seem to collab with Xbox that often, so maybe not. But
apparently that was because Xbox wouldn't short print physical copies,
print discs, which is weird. But maybe we'll be able to get a weird situation where we get a limited run PS5 version and not an Xbox one.
Lordy.
We'll see.
Cyanide 1980 says, watched a few different videos of talkovers and opinions of the state of play. Lots of folks pissing over it. I personally saw a lot of potential bangers and was pretty hyped. Is pessimism becoming increasingly infectious in the mainstream for interaction's sake, or am I just a deluded optimist? I think some of this comes down to expectations, the kind of silly rumors that were going on beforehand, which people shouldn't really take much heed of, considering where a lot of that stuff was coming from, and a little bit of where you're getting these reactions from. There are some people, obviously, who just will shit on things because people sitting around going, yeah, that looks pretty cool, does not make for an exciting video.
Yeah.
But I can see why someone thought it was a 2-star, and I can see why someone thought it was a 3-star. I can't see people being like, that was terrible, there was no games. That doesn't wash for me personally.
But you'll get that because negativity sells, like you say. Like you're going to get, I'm sure if you search State of Play on YouTube just now, you'll just get a million like thumbnails of people like in the corner of the screen going, I can't believe all that. Sony, what are you doing?
Where's Spider-Man fucking 3? Where's the Ghost of Yote?
Hey guys, I was promised a Wolverine game and I ain't seen shit. So you're going to get all that.
Miyazaki, where's the goddamn Bloodborne?
I'm sitting here bleeding out my ass waiting for a Bloodborne. So you
nearly 10 years now you gave me no Bloodborne. You give me
the goddamn here with my hoagie in my hand and it's dripping all over my hand and I'm waiting for the Bloodborne and the Bloodborne still ain't coming. Sony, what the fuck is going on with the Bloodborne?
I got a pound of prosciutto. You show me this Konami game where you play as a goddamn octopus. I'm waiting on the Bloodborne 2 over here. Come on, Sony.
Hey, Ma, I'm recording something over here, Ma. Shut up. Yeah, so well, basically we have too much of that. And people, there's not enough positivity in the video games medium, if you ask me. And I think we should be flying the flag of positivity and I might up my score to a 4 just to nullify.
Wouldn't it be like you?
Of course not. I certainly wouldn't. But yeah, people will be overly negative about these things because the life is one big show, and some of them like to have their egos massaged by people who like watching their videos because people like seeing people piss on things. And so, yeah, you're always going to get that element. But I think most reasonable level-headed people would be like, that was fine. That was okay. There was nothing bad about that.
Speaking of reasonable level-headed people, Andy, your thoughts? Pessimism? People just pissing for sake?
We already talked about state of play.
Yeah,
we're talking about the state of play.
Yeah,
the state of play. It's just, it's a marketing vehicle for them. A whole bunch of the games that are on that have paid or have deals where they're obligated to, have their game featured in some marketing thing. So yeah, it's a bit cynical sometimes. I still think Sony sees its biggest stuff as, which I approve of, by the way, as an on-stage thing. I mean, it was so great to have the intergalactic announcement at Game Wars was a real pleasant throwback to like the 3 days where you'd have a big game revealed on stage, new game.
Yeah, I miss those days.
That was cool, and I still think that is where the biggest stuff should be in person. And obviously we're biased because usually we're in the room, but you feel the energy, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I just don't. I mean, that Housemarque game looks cool, really cool, but you're not as excited about it, are you? Than if it was premiered in front of an audience going mental.
Can I know Jeff Keighley's a regular listener. Jeff, if you're listening, see Summer Game Fest, please keep the crowd noise on during the trailers, because when I was at Gamescom and they did the Borderlands 4 announcement and they did the Mafia announcement, they were getting big cheers when they were revealed, and then when I watched the stream later, I heard nothing because it was the sound, the crowd noise was cut off, and I think that builds half the hype, is seeing how people are reacting to it. So I don't know if it's because some of the other games weren't getting cheers and there's that fear of like, if a game doesn't get a reaction, then what are we spending money on?
Just keep a hand on the knob, you know?
Aye, exactly. Well,
also,
certainly I did.
Turn the volume down. It's too loud. Your shows are too loud. I'm a middle-aged man.
I mean, the best example of that was the PlayStation experience, God rest it, when they did the first Last of Us 2 trailer, and it was like a forest, and everyone was like, oh, then it pulled out and showed the Fireflies logo, and everyone was like, ah! Going absolutely crazy. And that's still on the reveal trailer on YouTube. It's so good. Speaking of trailers, Mr. Dave, video game companies showing us a trailer with no gameplay. Why is this acceptable? I don't get why people have a problem with this when the game is a million years out and they will show gameplay eventually. Like, I don't need gameplay in every trailer. I think a tone piece trailer is fine. I think a story trailer is fine. If you're going to do exclusively that, I get it, but I really like...
Because it became a big thing 10 years ago, didn't it? Because you remember Xbox made it policy, or I don't know if it was literal policy, but they would hold their E3 shows and they'd say, all of this is real gameplay, right? They made a real effort to step away consciously, and they even messaged it that way. But I could see how 10 years ago, when the games would end up looking nothing like their CG trailers, right? That's not really an issue now, you know? Like, it's that Saurus game. Like, do we really think it's not going to look like that? It will.
I'm quite hypocritical about it. I'm okay with it depending on the scale of the game, depending on the importance of the game. If it's a Saurus, or if it's like a new big first party game that of an IP, or even a third party IP that we know, and then give the tone and say blah blah blah. The name enough is enough to make people go, oh shit, they're making a new one of those, and that's the tone they're going for. Fine. But if it's a new game from like a smaller third party IP and it's like a cinematic trailer, and then the title comes up and everyone goes, all right, and then like within 30 seconds they've forgotten the title and they've forgotten the tone. Sorry, I had to batter and fuck out my mic. And then I think it kind of wastes. It's a waste of time on their behalf.
I think in general there are too many self-indulgent game reveals. To your point, I think the type of studio you're describing, like these venture capital seed money studios, who've had hundreds of millions of dollars handed to them, of virtually tens of millions of dollars handed to them, and hired this experienced team, and they really think that their shit smells great, basically. Like, oh, it's our new IP and we're going to do the logo, and you're going to, and actually it just looks really derivative and we don't know anything about why it's interesting.
Yeah, it's the kind of people who'd send you an embargoed press release for something. You're like, you don't need to embargo this, mate. We'll cover it, but you don't need to place restrictions on it like you want us to be covering your game. Like you don't need to synchronize some sort of big announcement for this. Like we'll cover it. Stuff like that. It's just like also, we can get into the nitty-gritty in that another time.
Also, you can't just send me an email and say this is embargoed if I didn't agree to the embargo. Anyway, last question. On the similar topic, Jerafemi, or aka Jeremy G, you're going to need to pick one, I'm afraid. Though the Nintendo Directs, Developer Directs, and PlayStation State of Plays are similar to a point, they also have their own defined presentation style that sets them apart from each other. Do you have a preference of which of the three you prefer overall? And is there anything you'd like to see them change, add, consider in the future you feel could benefit from them? I'm going to say you're not allowed to say a live audience because that's cheating. I think that the Nintendo Directs are still probably the gold standard of doing it. Yeah. I think they can get a bit bloody long in the tooth sometimes, and they can really spend too much time on crap, but I suppose that's endemic of the last couple being like, we're right at the end of the Switch, we've got to keep the plate spinning. Yeah. They'll get really exciting again when it's Switch 2 time, but between the State of Plays and the Developer Directs,
I think the Developer Direct is the best one for me, the format. I think the format wouldn't work in the context of a Nintendo Direct where you're firing 50 announcements, but it's really nice to see, actual people behind games speak, right? I'm going to champion anything that does that.
Yeah. They're two very different. I think State of Play tries to kind of be in the middle and doesn't quite manage it because they try to have a lot of games, but they keep breaking to cut to the developers saying, but they don't have enough time to kind of do a deep dive on it. So they just turn up and say, hey, I'm the developer of so I'm really excited to have been making this game. Bye. And you're like, well, all right, thanks.
Go back into the void.
So, but you've got a Nintendo Direct, which is like game, and all you get between it is a guy going, and now here's another puzzling Professor Layton adventure, and then just go straight to the next trailer. And that I like those. I prefer that. But to Andy's point, I would sit on the couch and happily watch a Developer Direct instead, because, like he says, that gives you the story behind the game, and that's great when you've only got like 6 or 7 or 8 games to show, and you can afford to put 5 to 10 minutes on each game, and actually give a proper deep dive, see their studio, get an idea of what their thinking is behind the game. I think that's really valuable. So I'm torn between. I would still prefer Nintendo Direct because I just like having games thrown at me, personally. But
I'll throw a fucking game at you.
Well, thanks very much. Digital, please. But Developer Directs definitely have their place, and I'm all for them as well.
Good stuff. Well, boys, I'm calling it. Thank you very much for listening to VGC, the Video Game Podcast. If you would like more podcasts, videos, and extra content, patreon.com/video games chronicle. What we up to this weekend, Andy? You got an exciting one coming up?
Back to Butlins. Yes! that's why I sound battered. Yeah, I'm going taking the family for a little break.
Yeah.
I don't mind a Butlins break. Good fun.
Yeah. Well, we'll hear all about it next week. We're doing a special podcast recounting it. Chris, back to the zoo this weekend?
No, I'm off to the soccer tomorrow to see a bit of association football. Glasgow Celtic Football Club versus Dundee United Football Club. So that'll be good. Prediction 3-0.
To Dundee?
Celtic this time.
Okay. Good. Thank God. It's been on the rocks recently. We're only about 300 points ahead. I'm going to play video games all weekend and do hee-haw else. I cannot wait. Because I've been at Glasgow Airport more times than John Smeaton recently, so it'll be nice to have a wee...
To be fair, he's not been back since the incident.
Yeah, the incident, as we call it. Okay, boys, let's call it there before we start talking about terrorists again. Comments, questions, and concerns to podcast@videogameschronicle.com. Thank you to Grant Kirkhope for the VGC podcast theme. Andy's away under the desk for God knows what reason. Say goodbye, Chris.
Goodbye, Chris.
Say goodbye, Andy.
Goodbye.
And we'll see you next week.